I mean, Singaporeans, right, they'll be asking like, how do you leave your job, not have any money, and still be able to survive before you even resign? So what do you actually need to think about? Nobody quits a 9 to 5 with the goal of saying, I just don't want to work. Have an idea of the lifestyle you want to take when you don't have that 9 to 5, because suddenly you're getting 8 hours back in your life. I didn't start working from like with a degree lah. So I had a diploma. I started my first job. And I think I was very fortunate because what I'm good at may not be what I'm passionate about.
Because when I first got to know you, told me, I bought a property in Cambodia. I was like, huh?
Countries like Cambodia is very backward developing, but actually their banking system is actually better than our local banks. Huh?
World First is back with us at TFC today. Yes, for all you aspiring professionals turned business owner and or side hustlers, you will quickly realize that you lose a lot of money simply by moving money around. A few percent here, a few percent there, it adds up. So World First offers you competitive FX rates for your international transfers starting as low as $1, helping you maximize your money and stay competitive. I will share with you a little bit more about their latest product in the podcast. So meanwhile, let's roll. Welcome back to Chills with TFC. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And today I am back in studio with another interesting person. This guy is very active in the personal finance community. Fair, right? Yeah, I've known him for a while, and I think he has a very interesting story exiting a high-paying job. I think 6-figure a year, right? 6-figure a year, exiting high-paying job, quit lah. Come and do his own thing. And over time, as I get to know him, apparently he has some sort of a Cambodia retirement plan on the side lah. Maybe as a plan B type of situation. So I am very glad to be in studio with Chris. For audience that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Reggie. Hey, everyone. So my name is Chris. I'm the founder of the Retire by 50 platform. It's a platform where I want to do content that is focusing on helping other PMETs, mid-career folks get out of the rat race through personal finance, of course, by creating different streams of income. And at the same time, I'm also a financial advisor today with iFast Global Markets.
If you are in the personal finance community, you would have seen his posts around. He's very active and he has shared a lot of good stuff. So I think that's kind of why I wanted you on.
Yep.
But for context sake, right? Actually, how old are you? Retired by 50, not 10 years?
I am 42.
Okay.
I started a blog in my 30s. So I gave myself like 20-year runway to kind of retire by 50. Yeah.
So what made you think of this idea at the point in time of your 30s?
It probably was my second or third job after I got out of the army. For context sake, right, I come from a humble family.
Enough! I don't want the humble family to be a running joke on TFC. Okay. There are people that come from humble families, okay? Yeah.
So I didn't start working from like with a degree lah. So I had a diploma. I started my first job. I think I was very fortunate because my first job 20 years ago was already a digital marketer in a time when there was no Google, there's probably Friendster, no? Very new.
I refuse to admit, but I know. I know
so
Friendster.
The fortunate thing, probably in today's context, you would think you are, like 10 years ago, you're a data scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Then you are in a very good running track, right? Where there's not a lot of competition and you're able to move. So the fortunate part is obviously the salary at the start as a diploma holder is not very high, and probably it's still not very high today for diploma holders. And then I was able to just climb the ladder and get higher salaries as I move. But I think when I got to my third role, still as a digital marketer, so I was digital marketing for like 20 years in different places. I think what I realized was I'm pretty good at digital marketing because you want a logical person, a structured person to come out with all these ideas. But what I'm good at may not be what I'm passionate about. I am actually more passionate about money personal finance. So that's why I started a blog to, number one, have an alternative in what I really am passionate about, and also keep myself accountable because, when you want to think about money, right, and if your friends are not very savvy about money, you talk to them, they probably don't come out with you after a while. So the blog was a place where I would just write about my expenses, how I spend my money, my income in a certain sense, in a different persona so that people don't know who I am. And that allowed me just to keep myself accountable in terms of how I manage my money.
I think it's still the case. You know, like the people, I mean, that's why I do think that our corner of the internet is a self-select. I'm sure a lot of listeners tune in is because they don't really have another bunch of people to talk to. So they think like they're talking to us. Your question put in the comment section, we'll bring it up, okay, in future episodes. But, you know, it is still the case. I think it's maybe a little bit different in the sense that, you know, there are more and more outlets to talk about it. There are more and more spaces to talk about it. It may not all be good, but
I mean, they get to at least share this video with their friends and start a conversation.
Right. Exactly. So there is some sort of a proliferation of the avenues to begin the discussion. Actually, I didn't realize that you started out as a diploma grad and then, you know, all the way you climb, because when I got to know you, you're already a very senior in the digital marketing space, right? So maybe can you kind of paint us that picture? Maybe also a little bit like how was your starting salary back then, you know, and then that kind of growth structure.
During that era, I think diploma holders get around 2005 to 2008.
Yeah.
You never cross 2000 in your first job. Today, I think they probably do.
The energy very heavy, yeah.
Yeah, they don't. You never. So,
yeah.
as a diploma holder and also interviewing for a space that no one really know what digital marketers do at that point of time. And maybe this is something for diploma holders, right? You go in, you don't have that very nice certificate to say you're from NUS, NTU, or SMU, that kind of thing. What worked out for me was that I actually spent time after I got out of the army to create 3 different websites for 3 different genres. One was like a directory for e-commerce. That time it was blog shops. They just use blog and just talk about things you want to sell. The other was like a blog article about investing in gold. And another one, I forgot what it was, but like a corporate website. So the goal was to then show people, hey, I know how to build websites. I know how to get traffic to these websites. I also know how to monetize this website. So that was how I gave the hiring manager the confidence to hire me. Because you need to look beyond the diploma certificate, because certificates are just certificates. I'd rather show people like, you want to hire someone who knows what they're doing.
Kepo a bit, right? Last time, how do you drive traffic to a website?
Oh, very simple. Last time, in a space where there's no AI, right, and you just use Google to get traffic, right, it was very easy because I got all the different blog shop owners to come to my website to list their... It's like a classified site, it's like a directory for blog shops. So when you get new content every single day, Google will love you and will send you a lot of traffic. That was as simple as it is. But today it's not so simple.
Of course. Today it has gotten so expensive that I have friends who are talking to me about like physical businesses, you know, actually is more cost effective in marketing because you're essentially tapping into the immediate region that you are in, right? So relative to competing for search and competing for attention online, right? So it's interesting how things evolve over time.
Yeah, we are not going to do anything online without spending advertising dollars today.
Impossible. So maybe give us a bit of color then in the later ends of your career, you know, like what did it look like and why did you then quit at such a high point? Or at least when I know you, I thought it was a high point. It's like, wow, not bad, you know?
In the corporate space, it really depends on what you define as a high point, right? Because for the regular employees, they might think that, okay, maybe getting 100K per year is not bad, right? Maybe getting 200K per year is not bad. Maybe you are in the position of a regional role is good. Maybe you want to be in a global position where you're flying everywhere to talk to different teams, and that's good for them. So it depends on what you define as a high point. I don't think in my career I've reached a high point yet because my last role was really a regional role. And I do lead a team of around 4 to 5 people. To some, it's enviable. The salary is not bad. But I think once you hit, let's say, a 6-figure, you're probably chasing the next 6-figure, the next 7-figure. It really doesn't really change and doesn't really matter. So I think maybe a midpoint would be a good standing.
So then what gave you the confidence to leave then? Because a lot of people, as they move on their careers and they make more money, then they inevitably get entrenched in a lot more responsibilities and more like commitments, right? So the thought process of like, oh, I gotta leave this job now becomes a bit more complicated than when you were younger. It's like, I hate this team, you know, culture very bad, go, you know, like when you're much older in your 40s, you know, it's not so simple, right? So tell us a bit more.
The first thing we probably want to share with the audience and be very clear, is I'm single, I'm not married, I got no kids. So if you get married, then it's on you lah. If you have 2 kids, then it's also on you.
Okay, but that being said, I think it's an important context
Yeah.
because it colors what you're gonna say, right?
So for those who are single and don't have kids and all that stuff, right? The commitment probably will still be like a mortgage if you bought a place for yourself. So I have a place for myself, so I have a mortgage with me. And then you just need to take care of family lah. You're not part of the sandwich generation, but you still have the top part of the bread. You don't have the bottom part of the bread. You will still have certain commitments you need to do, but it's lesser compared to someone who is married and have kids and have other stuff to look after. With that out of the way, it just means that I have lesser liabilities to worry about. In my last role, I think the biggest issue for me was that I think the organization wasn't a good fit for me from a culture perspective. So then I was thinking, okay, what if I want to try something different? Because when at my age, if you cross 40, you're gonna want to think that this is probably the last chance you might try something different. Whether is it a career switch to a totally different industry, because you can't be 50 years old and you say that, okay, I'm a manager in hospitality and suddenly I want to try banking, right? A totally different racetrack in your 50s is close to impossible in most cases. So I think 40s may be a good space for you to start thinking, is this your last hurrah to try something different?
Hoorah! I very long never hear this word.
I'm happy you tap on the age 50s and 60s.
Yeah. The other day we tap on the Gen Z, now we tap on the Gen Xers. Please continue on that.
In my headspace, I was thinking that in my 40s, this is my last chance to try something different. So, but yeah, I didn't know what I want to do. So why not let's just take a career break and go figure things out. I also posted about coming to this show on LinkedIn, right? So one of my ex-colleagues was asking, and I think it's probably important, is before you even resign, so what do you actually need to think about? Some part of this is on hindsight and part of this is the stuff that I actually do, right? So the stuff that I actually did was on the finance part, at least make sure that I've got enough money to walk away from a job and not have income. So I did the math, and for some of you who are also thinking of doing the same, you do want to at least track your expenses long enough to know confidently how much do you spend every year. So in my case, I want to take a 1-year career break. So I need to make sure that I probably have 2 years of savings in terms of covering my expenses, because 1 year is not working, Then you at age 40, right, in Singapore, you probably take another year to find a job. So let's say you have 2 years of savings, then you're probably okay. Then number 2 is obviously just double check, because we've been in this space for really long. We know that we don't have any insurance protection gap because we ensure that we buy the right term insurance and cover ourselves. But for many of the mid-career professionals that I spoke to, they don't necessarily look at that. So if you're thinking of taking a career break, maybe you ought to relook at your insurance to make sure that you have 2 years of expenses saved up. But you also want to have the right insurance to ensure that anything major happen, you're not caught in a space where you need a lot of money and you don't have a job. So insurance is probably also super important. And maybe the last thing I did was my investment, because when you're employed and you know you have a steady career, right, you can be very gung-ho in how you structure your portfolio to invest. So I was almost 90% into equities and 10% fixed income. So I switched it on to around 70% equities and 30% fixed income, so that there's lesser risk on the table in the stock markets, and then just more safety in case I run out of 2 years and I still want to do other things.
I have a lot of more detailed questions, but before we go there, is there like a ballpark figure of like kind of how much you've set aside for this whole structure?
So if you ask me what gave me the absolute confidence that I can walk away from the job today, right? The immediate worst situation is I run out of 2 years of savings and then that's it, right? But in reality is that if I liquidate all my investments, the worst case is I will run out of my savings in 10 years. So I think in our space and knowing myself, I don't think 10 years has passed and then I run out of money and yet I couldn't find out what the hell I want to do with my life and couldn't monetize anything. So So with that level of confidence, I was confident enough to just quit lah.
And the risk premium compounds over time the later you quit, right? So the later you explore an alternative path, right? So it is what it is.
When you quit is important because I also think that I'm very fortunate because when I quit the year before and took a 1-year career break last year, right, we were in a bull market where the US equities were like 20% up, right? So you realize...
But I don't think you planned that, right?
You don't plan, but then I also realized that it's emotionally it's very comfortable because I realized that, hey, I'm spending this amount of money this year, but the portfolio went up a lot more than how much I'm spending. Then it feels like this 10-year didn't go down to like 9 years of expenses. It still remained as 10 because the market was up. But if I were to take that career break this year, then it's a very different picture already. You spend money, you got no income, and then your portfolio still tank. And then every day you watch the news, Trump is still saying something different. Then the emotional state is very different.
Fair. That also kind of indirectly informs the decision, right? Like I think there will be a much reduced propensity to quit a full-time job now, So it is what it is. Yeah, and I think just a little bit of a sidetrack on the 10-year, it's actually based on the Singapore life. So later we'll talk a little bit more about the Cambodia thing, but I think that in itself extends a 40, 50-year timeline, And I think I've said this a few times, but I think Singaporeans, if we can open up our minds on those fronts, then there's a lot more elasticity as to why it's possible.
And it's also very precious because in your 40s, you kind of realize that the real prime and youthful part of your life has passed already. But now, if you don't even treasure the 40 to 50, 10-year period, right, then at your 50s, you will really feel that you wasted the 40s. So if you want to do something different, I think this is the right age to do it.
What made you say that?
In my social space, I also do have some folks who are in their 50s, right? So at my 40s, I can still say, okay, I'm going to go backpack in China, spend 1 month. And so, so when we are in 50s, it's going to be very difficult to still want to try something like this. So treasure the season of your life that you're still fitter and healthier to do something different.
So let's zoom in a little bit on the personal finance side of things, right? So just now you had a little bit of a high level talk around how you're doing this, right? So you talk about term life, right? So actually, I think I can say that your last big stint was in a major insurance company.
No, the last big stint was with a telco.
Telco, okay. The one before was with a major insurance company, right? So I think, and then you're very active in the personal finance space. So you kind of form your own view, of what you think works, right? So I want to hear your view and that process towards forming that view, like what is your insurance structure? What's your investment structure? I think these are the two main things people care about.
Okay, if we go all the way back in time, right?
Yeah, we have time. Yes, please go.
Most people, when you get out from national service, they always get in, it's not that we are stupid, but often we want to support friends. And then when your friend goes in insurance space, you want to support your friend. So I also fell into that trap as well, where I say, okay, you just started, I want to support you. So in the end, at a time when I'm not very savvy about insurance, I bought an ILP from a friend. Then that started my insurance journey, right? And then as I wisen up, 3 to 4 years later, then I kind of realized that the ILP is not the right fit for my view. Is not the right fit for anybody in Singapore. Like nobody should get ILP in most cases unless you're very different. But most people are not very different. So I took the pain of surrendering my ILP. But of course, that's only a few years in. So the loss is not as great compared to if you had to stay another 10 plus years more and have that sunken cost. So I'm okay to let it go. And I've changed my view after being more savvy to really just buy term and invest the rest. So you talked about it on your show, other episodes a lot more, right? So basically my view is to have that term insurance to ensure that you're well protected, whether is it for death, for disability, for accident, and also for hospitalization, and also critical illness. Then the rest, you really just need to invest that money. And if we fast forward to today, there are so many different investment choices out there that isn't as expensive as an ILP. So you could really just invest yourself or find someone to invest for you without a crazy amount of fees upfront. And you don't have to get locked in to say, because the biggest problem with ILP is if you were to buy ILP and you think that you're investing, the ILP product requires you to stay invested for at least 10 years. But life changes so much, ma. Like me, I also wouldn't think that at my 40s I decided to quit my job, right? So if I still at ILP and I'm still paying for it, then I need to account for the expense, and yet I don't have the liquidity to take the money out. Like I still have to pay lah. So then, if you just buy your term insurance and ensure you're protected, invest in an investment portfolio that suits your risk appetite, you always have that liquidity to say, I don't want to invest anymore, or I'll take a bit out without a crazy amount of fees that you have to pay for giving that up. So buy term and invest, the rest is my worldview.
Hey Coconuts, I'm very excited to introduce you to the latest offerings from World First. World First is an all-in-one business account that fuels your business worldwide. Their latest product, the World Card, is a multi-currency business card that allows you to get unlimited 1.2% cashback on all your business spend. If you use it on Meta Ads, Google Ads, ChatGPT, Salesforce, and more, you get additional benefits. Of course, subjected to change, terms and conditions apply. But more importantly, if today you are looking to start your business, whether it's in retail, e-commerce, or B2C, World First is your partner. Check them out, link in the description below, and back to the show. I think liquidity is one aspect of thing. Most people talk about it from a cost structure point of view, right? So I mean, put it this way, like even when we think about our investments, most of us wouldn't want to be like extracting our investments as and when, right?
Yep.
So unless absolutely necessary, you should your savings buffer should be able to buffer you, and then you let your investment. That's the logic on that's the logic of the land, right?
If life remains the same and nothing changes, that's the logic, right?
Exactly.
If something major comes up and you need to tap on the money that's more than your savings, then unfortunately you do have.
I get it, right? There are always unfortunate scenarios, but if you plan for every unfortunate scenario, then
Then
your
have
risk
too much
premiums
cash.
are also
Yes.
off the roof, right? So I think there must be some ground to take lah, right? But I think for a lot of people, the biggest qualm is cost structure, right?
I agree.
And cost structures have changed so much from back then. Even all the brokers from the past all cannot survive really, because all their cost structure back then to today, right? They're just not competitive.
There's no remisers.
Yeah, there's no more, none of those things, right? So any thoughts on that?
When I talk to folks today about money, the main reason why I got into financial advisory was purely because my friends were asking, Singaporeans, right? They'll be asking like, how do you leave your job, not have any money, and still be able to survive? So when I wasn't a licensed financial advisor, I could give them rough idea because I don't want to be seen as giving financial advice, right? Tin fa.
Yeah, tin fa. Tin fa.
So it was very hard because they roughly got the message that I was telling them, but they were not able to take action. Either they were procrastinating or they are not confident. So I decided to get the license so that I can tell them and then help them do it. So the reality is today, cost structure can be very low if you buy term and invest the rest. You don't overcomplicate by buying a complicated product. You simplify things by breaking up the different products that you require. And then investing can be quite cheap when you go with low-cost index funds. So you just go with... The way I work with my clients is just go and buy the same portfolio I buy lah, because we were talking about it, right? Most mid-career professionals don't necessarily need a bespoke investment portfolio. It's just like you go work at a job, most mid-career professionals also don't need a tailored shirt.
Yeah.
They can survive with a Uniqlo shirt.
Yeah.
But they just want to feel atas and go and get a tailored shirt.
And most of the time they are sold that tailored shirt. Yeah.
Realistically, you can get by with off-the-rack kind of stuff. A very simplistic investment portfolio is probably a good fit for most people, unless they have certain views on the market that they want to do, right? Otherwise, don't even make it overly complicated. Okay. But most cases, you may want someone to help you stay on track. Just someone to talk to so that you stay invested and not say, I just buy and then second year I do something else.
Okay, fair. So then what is your investment portfolio?
So my own investment portfolio, basically, okay, this is from the context of while I was working, because I think it's more relevant for folks who are working.
For sure.
So I basically just buy an index ETF that is benchmarking the MSCI World. So basically, it's mostly invested in the 23 developed markets in the world, and it's all being spread out. So you just capture a portion of the market's return. But of course, I couldn't live with the volatility of just equity. So then when I was working, I had around 10% in fixed income, bonds, bond funds and stuff. When you choose to take a career break, you can always shift. You don't have to change what you're investing in, but you can change the allocation. So I had more in fixed income and lesser in MSCI World, so that the volatility isn't that great.
So essentially, you're doing the broadly diversified type of portfolios, right? Which is the talk of the town, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's the talk of the town, But why? Why do you use this method? And not like the budget pick your own stocks. Some of us we pick our own stocks. So. Or at least some part of the portfolio is a stock picking exercise. So like, why not do that?
For me, when I was working, I believe that the biggest reward isn't through investing. The biggest monetary reward is really doing my job well, then climbing the corporate ladder. So anything that distracts me from doing my job well and climbing the corporate ladder in my 30s, right, is a distraction. I think we should all start investing when we're young, but we shouldn't be distracted by investing if that is not going to be the main monetary model for us. So if it's not, then why not you just invest and capture a portion of the market's return? You sleep well at night, you wake up fresh, you go back to work.
So that is like the Shao's method, right? I think
Yeah.
Shao, when he came on the show, if you didn't know, he's in Chiang Mai. I think he's still in Chiang Mai, but Chiang Mai is a problem because I think half a year, quite a few months every year in Chiang Mai, the sandstorm is huge. So everybody moves out of Chiang Mai. I mean, the air essentially becomes like reddish. Yes, he essentially, I think it's the same view. Be more active with your active income and be more passive with your passive income, right? So and I think sometimes it's good to remind everyone, right? Like in terms of the more active your active income, because sometimes it feels like people just want to like do very little, don't want to, like you want to capture the upside, but you don't want to go further, to kind of do that. And long time ago when I talked to Keith from Investment Modes, so I think he's quite a legend, right? I think we did an episode with him. You can go and check out his blog. He also had a nuanced view on this, right? He was an engineer, right? He said that it's quite clear that I think in some sense the industry hentak kaki, so he hentak kaki alongside with the industry, right? So that's kind of where he started really picking up more on like investing and looking at all these other things. But I think his worldview has changed also over time. But I think it's a function of these two between your active career and then your investments, right? Yeah. So you can kind of look at that. Ultimately, you have X amount of bandwidth, right? Where you want to spend the bandwidth is important.
Like what you said, right? If you're in a job that there is no career mobility, you're not going to move up because there's only that one guy. He may be a clown, but that clown's not leaving the circus anytime soon. So you're going to be part of that circus for a while. But you know that you just need to clock in, day out, you get that salary, right? Then obviously you can spend more time on your investment portfolio because you have time. Probably what a lot of fresh grads probably feel today. Like they want to do more, they want to rise up the rank, but today they probably can't rise up as fast as what they're thinking of. So they just have to live with it lah.
So just to be clear, you don't do the mouse game?
No. So I know that people either are in the cashback game or the mouse game. Yeah. So I'm in the don't spend beyond your means games. If I don't spend that much, then I also don't get much cashback or miles, right?
Yeah.
So if I can optimize my spending, save and invest the money, the reward will still be better than trying to do the cashback or miles thing.
Okay, fair. Okay, so now for the fun part, the part that I think a lot of people will find it quite interesting, because when I first got to know you, told me, I bought a property in Cambodia. I was like, huh? What the hell is this? Right? And after that, I remember there was a bit of a discussion. I was like, maybe it's not the best decision, blah, blah, blah. But then after this recording, a few days later, you're going to go there and get your property and all that, right? So help us understand that thought process. And I think you went to Cambodia to interview some of your friends there, so yeah.
From a market perspective, Cambodia is a very young country. So there's always the opportunity that they may grow really well because they have a very young workforce. They have different struggles. I mean, from a political, economical standpoint, they may have different struggles, right? Why I invested property there was purely from the standpoint that That was probably 6 years after working. And then I had some money that I wanted to tikam. Then that point, I think the most happening one was you either go Iskandar and you buy a place there, or you invest in maybe Australia. So in my head, it was like, I don't have that amount of money to tikam into these two areas because they are quite expensive. And that was also a time when I think Malaysia said, oh, you must spend at least 1 million.
Yeah, they started adjusting.
You cannot buy.
Yes.
So the very nice period of you have 100K, you can buy something already, pass.
Gone.
So my time was you need 1 million. Then I don't want to put that large amount. So Cambodia stood out as a place where it doesn't cost so much to buy a place.
How much did it cost?
Somewhere around like 100K USD, you can get something.
Okay.
Now, I think it will probably still be around that amount or lesser if you know where to look for. So the thing I wasn't too happy was when you're new and you're starting to invest, I think the biggest issue for me was me thinking that, okay, a Singapore developer is selling a property there. So Singapore developer trusted ma. Then with that, obviously, now I realize that you have to pay a higher premium if you go with a Singapore developer who show you a showroom or a floor plan in Singapore and tell you can buy there. So the smarter move today for people who's considering, right, would be you fly there, go stay there for 2 weeks, take a look at the environment, see whether you like that place. If you're planning to buy a place to stay, go and stay longer, go and see. You're buying to invest, then you just stay there for a decent amount period to observe the market. And then talk to the local property agents and explore what's the opportunity there. So because in some countries, I think the developing countries like Thailand and Cambodia, the resale market isn't as strong as the project development.
Yes.
So then there's the opportunity for you to buy a cheaper property on the resale market if you know the right people. So just go down and meet the locals and find someone you can trust and invest that way. It probably gets you the best bang of buck if you want to go into developing markets.
Interesting. Did you manage to get a mortgage on it?
In most developing countries, right, the interest rate on mortgages are quite high.
Yeah, 8%?
I think it was 5 to 7.
5 to 7, okay.
So I didn't take a mortgage. I just paid cash.
Okay.
Sounds very rich, right? But realistically,
Chris
what happens
Chris is very rich,
is that you earn from your salary, you take a portion out and you save. Then every 3 to 6 months or whatnot, you just pay for that. The progressive payment, like Singapore like that. So you just save and then you pay. It's not too difficult.
It's actually you pay in tranches, right? Like how new launches are.
Correct.
But is that the practice in Cambodia itself also? Or is it the Singaporean developer in Cambodia has this practice?
It could be because the Singapore company has that practice.
Okay.
So I think that's the case.
Then any tax, any other things you want to share with us?
So the interesting part is they don't have tax on the purchase. And also I think the benefit for me was the opportunity to open a Cambodian bank account where the interest rate is actually not bad for USD. Mm-hmm. And also I could do fixed deposits there if I wanted to. Then when I go Cambodia, it's probably like you going to Malaysia. You don't really need to change money. You have a bank account there, you have money there, so then you spend. So what was fun was just partaking in the growth of Cambodia.
Okay.
Though it's taking a bit longer.
What is the... No, it's taking a bit long.
A bit long.
Wow, it's a long-term investment. Maybe just give me a bit color there, right? Like what is the kind of interest rates that the Cambodian banks are paying for USD?
So previously they were doing it around close to 5%.
Okay, that's very good.
Fixed deposit. So it was not bad. And the reality is we can think that countries like Cambodia is very backward developing, but actually their banking system is actually better than our local banks. Huh?
Elaborate, please.
So for example, many years back, right, when I opened my first bank account, they asked me if I want an ATM card. So in Cambodia, I chose not to get the ATM card because I'm not going to be there, right? But when I was there, I realized that with the mobile app, you can actually use the app to withdraw money. Then you go to the ATM, you enter the 6-digit PIN from the mobile app and the money comes out. You don't need a card. So in Singapore, I think even DBS cannot do this, right? Yeah. But I think the closest probably is like OCBC where you can use the app, you scan the QR code, you draw money out. In that sense, they are a lot more fast forward lah. So our traditional banks actually do have to catch up.
In China, they will say 现金. It's
Yeah.
like cash. So we need to move away from it, right? But okay, fair. So when you first started with this Cambodia thing, it was a bit of a punting type energy, right? You were maybe it could be
It's
something.
like the roulette table, you choose that one number.
You choose that one thing and you
Then
hope
you realize
and pray.
that number never show up for quite a while.
But the roulette's still turning, right? Roulette's still turning. Okay. Where is it now in your plans, in your retirement plan, or how do you look at it now?
For now, I'm still thinking it as an investment property, though I think the resale value is not high, but it still chalks up a decent rental. So I'm letting the local agents handle the rental for now. So that's just going to accumulate. I don't necessarily factor the value of the property in my net worth today, purely because the number is really unknown, because it's not like Singapore where you have past transactions to refer. So I left that out of my net worth, but I just account for the rent that I have accumulated in my bank account there.
What would be the rental yield?
It's not very high. It's like 2%, 2.5%.
Okay.
It's just that it was affordable to purchase in that sense. But looking back, I think some of my friends were saying you probably want to consider Bangkok, where the properties may give a better yield. So hindsight, maybe I should have gone to Bangkok.
Yeah. Sometimes where everyone is a good place to be.
Yeah.
Right. There's higher concentration and all that. So, but that's a different discussion. Okay, fair. Thanks for sharing. I think it's a great recount of your thought processes and why you do what you do and all that. So maybe in closing, any last things you want to share with the younger professionals?
One thing that you want to think of, the money aside, we talk a lot about money, right? So before you want to leave your job and say you want to take a 3-month or 1-year career break, have an idea of the lifestyle you want to take when you don't have that 9 to 5, because suddenly you're getting 8 hours back in your life. And those 8 hours are really good, because that's the 8 hours you go shopping mall, there's nobody. You go watch a movie, it's like you have the cinema to yourself.
And all the promotion.
You go makan is where all the off-peak discounts are. So you really want to think about what you want to do. And Singaporeans are very productive in the sense that I tell you, I take away your full-time job, you will start thinking, what else can I do that is productive? So you probably want to think about what you want to explore and try. Because when I had a plan when I quit, then after I quit, I realized the plan is not the plan.
Can you elaborate?
So maybe you need to talk a bit long.
Elaborate a bit more.
So for example, in my head, it was like, okay, you quit the job every morning, you go for a swim, you go for a walk, then you can chill a bit, then you do some reading, right? Then realize, no, I don't really like reading. I still don't like reading even if I have 8 hours of my time left. So then I was start thinking of how I want to use my time to do something else. So that's why I decided to spend a lot more time on my own website, the Retire by 50 website. And then I also started looking at what else I want to do together with my friends. So I also started blogging a bit more at that time. So with that, I also thought about how I want to spend time, because it's very lonely if you don't have offices to go to, you don't have colleagues to speak to. So I started working with my friend Caleb, who runs his own online tuition business. He has his own thing, I have my own thing, which is my blog and stuff. So, but we just meet, we chit-chat, and we get our own work done. You just want that sense of productivity, even though you're not working. So for your viewers who are thinking of, okay, I'm going to leave my 9 to 5, I have a lot of time, very good. Then you need to think, what exactly do I want to do? Then have that thinking. And when you do quit and you leave your job, you then explore what exactly. Because nobody quits a 9 to 5 with the goal of saying, I just don't want to work. You probably will quit a 9 to 5 because maybe for parents, it could be the kids having their O-levels. I really want to give time to make sure the kid succeed in O-levels, right?
But these days, I think parents struggle to empower at O-level.
Or maybe PSLE,
PSLE is still a thing. PSLE is still a thing.
Or for singles, it could be, I'm feeling burnt out. I want to just quit and explore passion. So you're going to do work in some sense. Like last year, we also did some work together, right? Yeah. So I did some fractional work for TFC to work on some projects, like the OCBC event that we worked on. So
which will happen soon, I'm quite sure. stay tuned. Stay tuned. There'll be another one.
Yeah, so there are different things that you probably will explore and do work for. So it will be cool to just explore what you want to do lah. So fractional work was something that was very interesting and we tried. Just give yourself time and space and think about what you want to do. When you quit, think back about what you want to do. What will you change now after you had time to yourself?
Maybe one more question there, right? It's like it still sounds very work. You know what I mean? Like okay, so now it's not full-time work anymore, but the word like productive, you're still finding things to do. Do you think you ever get past that, or do you want to get past that, or like
you know how people always say, right? The grass is greener on the other side, right? So for most employees, you probably will be thinking, this work sucks. I quit, I take a break, I don't want to work. But reality is, I think we want to feel accomplished. So we probably still want to do work in certain extent. So when I left my job, I realized that I am okay to do work. But maybe it's just not the work that I'm doing at that point of time. And for you, it may be you don't want to do the work that you're doing right now. But it doesn't mean that you don't want to work. Because work in that sense is, what exactly do you define as work? Because work is really you committing certain number of hours of your time a day to do something that you feel is meaningful. So maybe that work sucks because you don't find it meaningful, or that work sucks because it's consuming too many hours. So in my career break, I kind of realized that I like to work and be productive when in the morning from let's say 7 to let's say 2. And then after 2, I'm happy to be unproductive and take a nap, zone out, and do something else. So then I will find work that suits that period of time and the work that interests me. So like the fractional work with TFC was interesting enough. I'm okay to take a pay cut because SMEs don't have as much money as MNCs lah. So but the work is meaningful enough, so I'm happy to do that work for the number of hours. And obviously the fractional work wasn't a 5-day-a-week commitment, right? So we can always adjust that, but that's the benefit of fractional work lah. So you want to pursue your passion and try something different, but that is technically still work if you define it in the way that you want and it suits you. So people probably will still want to do work if they are doing the right work. I think that's the case.
So if our audience would like to connect with you, where's the best place to connect? Your website, LinkedIn?
The good thing about AI is if you Google for Retire by 50, you'll probably see my blog first in the AI response.
Nice.
But otherwise, retireby50.me will be the website. Otherwise, just look for Christopher Howe on LinkedIn and you'll probably find me as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And I think you can tell that I'm trying to bring in more human stories because my back end tell me that y'all love it. So great. Give the audience what they want. So if you think you have a great personal story that you want to share with the community, I welcome you, right? So email to us, hello@thefinancialcoconut.com, or you can go to our website, www.thefinancialcoconut.com, to put your email there, connect with us, or even a regular listener, your email there. We can essentially kind of escape the algorithm to reach you directly, right? So that you get the latest information of what we're trying to do, our events and all that. So yes, thank you. I will see you in the next episode. Meanwhile, take care all. Bye-bye.
Bye.